every kid will have, a different thing that they got from you or your wife, and it's just you just have to hopefully even out the edges and give them that head start that you didn't have.
How do you, as a parent, did you notice anything about the way the personality of your children, like how it differs, and like does it have a say in how they learn or how they behave or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
how they grow up? Or
Yeah, like I mean, my oldest is even more logically intelligent than I am. That's why he's probably a good fit for coding. And my wife is very much aware of that and just tries her best to make sure he doesn't fall into that trap of being your typical antisocial nerd. And I think we've done a fairly good job, and we'll see as he grows older. But it's like he still says things that comes off as rude or he's not socially aware, but like we work on that. So like every kid will have, a different thing that they got from you or your wife, and it's just you just have to hopefully even out the edges and give them that head start that you didn't have. And it sounds like you were your are your parents here? Were they immigrant parents, the typical grew up poor type of deal?
yeah, typical girl poor type
Yeah,
of deal,
yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. So it's like they didn't have the tools, like, and it's hard to blame them. Like, yes, I was angry at them in my teens and my 20s, but like as you grow older and you realize how difficult it is to raise a family, especially with the income they had, it's like, yeah, they did their best, right? But now, obviously, you and I, we've lived the quote unquote American dream, but in Canada, we have a lot more resources. We've had a lot more education. We've had a lot more experiences they didn't have, and we're able to pass that on. And that's the dream, right? To keep growing so that each successive generation has more tools and resources to build a more stable life. So that's what we have that our parents didn't have. And I think another huge thing, advantage that I have with my kids that my parents never did is like that cultural gap. So like, when I went camping, I came home and said, "Hey, I did whitewater rafting." He'd be like, "What's that?" I have no idea what that is. Because this is a guy that grew up in like communist Vietnam, and he got his way to Canada, and it's like there's just a gap of experience he never had. Like the only reason he's watching hockey these days is because I was into hockey when I was in grade 6 and 7, and like all these things that he never had. So like when I talk to my son, like I found out a few years ago he was playing Counter Strike. He's like, "Why are you playing a 20-year-old game?" It's like, well, that's what the kids are doing. But I could talk to him about it,
Right.
right? That kind of experience I have with my son, my father could never have with me because I grew up in the culture here. And that's
Yeah.
just another advantage that you get that our parents never had. It's like you've read all these books already, you've watched these movies, and you can pass them on. Whereas for my parents, like they're still stuck on, "Oh yeah, this movie I watched in Hong Kong was really good." Yeah, okay, but nobody here in America has ever seen it.
Yo, it's Igor. I want you to have my Amazon best-selling book for free for taking the time to listen to my podcast and to watch my YouTube videos. Now, I'm not only going to give you this book for free, but I'm going to throw in about $3.2 thousand in free bonuses. Now, if you want to get this book, please click the link in the description, or you can also go to igorsbook.com. And now, back to the podcast.
There are some universal experiences that we all can relate to, and as a copywriter I always try to pick up on those. But you're absolutely right. Like when I came to Canada, having grown up in Israel and before that in poverty in Ukraine, I was like, everyone's got a cottage, a second home, and people do this and do that, got all these hobbies and stuff. And even hockey, to me hockey is just some really weird random sport almost, because no one I knew when I was growing up played hockey in either Ukraine or Israel.
Yeah.
But you do pose a great question. Why do people still play Counter Strike, a 20-year-old game?
It's a well-run system. It's kind of like what's the super not Street Fighter, but the Nintendo
Tekken.
one. No,
Tekken.
the Nintendo one, where it's like all the famous Mario characters. Apparently, the first one that came out
Oh, right.
on 64 Like it's just perfectly balanced, and it's still used in tournaments in Las Vegas to this day. And I get a feeling, I'm assuming that that's what Counter Strike still is. It's so well balanced that it just works. Plus, it's free at this point, so like all the kids use it to practice on. I mean, they'll play other games, but like I was just blown away with, like a few years ago when I saw him play Counter Strike.
Yeah, Counter Strike has a really big player base, and it was really popular when I was a kid.
Yeah, when it first came
But it
out,
still is.
when it
Yeah,
first came out,
exactly. Like it's got over 1 million players like playing at any given time.
if it ain't
It's really big.
broke, if it
I
ain't
know,
broke,
I know, but you're looking at all the things that Call of Duty has to do to keep people engaged, and then you've got something like CS:GO. What? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But great question though. Why do people play Counter Strike 20 years later? Should definitely do an investigative article on something like that. So for people who want to get more of your thoughts and opinions and knowledge tidbits, where can they go? What's your Twitter? What's your website? Where can we find out more?
sure. Osmosis.dev, OSMOSIS.dev is my newsletter. So every Tuesday, every month I'm reading 2 to 3 books on human behavior, marketing, and storytelling. I summarize and I share my best insights in that newsletter every week. If you want to follow me on Twitter, is at Colin YJ Chung. There, it's more of if you want just copywriting and freelancing tips, that's where it is. That's my public persona. But if you want the deep, insightful stuff, it is Osmosis.
Yeah, I highly recommend subscribing to Osmosis. Really good newsletter, and just not just the books you're picking, but also the way you approach them, the surprising opinion you'll have about something like that. Because yeah, the book itself is valuable to read, but then hearing an opinion of someone smart about what they've just read, just like we've discussed the things about ChatGPT today. I've been diving into ChatGPT quite a bit, and I haven't investigated what Noam Chomsky, says about that. And so the whole perspective about ChatGPT not being able to come up with original ideas and to do a what if rabbit hole exercise, that's new to me. Something I'll have to explore. So uh, again, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah,
True
for
pleasure.
sure.
I hope I can host you soon again because this has been tremendous.
Yeah, I would love to be back. Thank you so much for having me.